Hello artists. Today I am going to be drawing some Plumeria. One of you asked me about Plumeria, so I thought I'd go ahead and play with those. Let me show you. I kind of played a bit. This is my ideas book. Let's see, where's my Plumeria? So here's the Plumeria with pinks and yellows. I always try to find kind of what to me is makes me think about a Plumeria, and what that was kind of those pinks and yellows. I know they come in other colors, so that's kind of what I'm going to do here. Where I'm going to start is just using those guidelines. So I'm going to create kind of a guideline here. That's the middle of my Plumeria. And then maybe one here. And we'll do one right in the center here. So these will be turned just a little bit for interest. What I'm going to do first is go ahead and I'm working, by the way, in that Artisto paper that, you know, I love. I think it's great for beginners. This is my fall 2024. I'm almost through it, so I will journal it away, and I can always use it for reference. It's 140-pound cold press. And so let's go ahead and just create, Plumerias have 5 petals. So I'm going to do one coming out here, one coming out here, maybe there, here, and maybe there. And then this one here, I'll do this kind of the same thing. So 1, 2, 3, I have 5 petals. One coming out there, 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 and there. And my last one here. So these guidelines are so helpful for me. I hope you can see those. Let's see, let's have one coming out there. I don't want to draw them too dark because I don't want my watercolors not to be able to cover them up, but this is for you guys to see as well, so that's kind of fine. You can always use watercolor pencils to draw your guidelines, and that way that watercolor pencil kind of dissolves. And then this is the main part that I really like to touch on. So for a Plumeria, I'm going to come out. One second, I wish I had my other pencil. I don't. This one's a little bit dull. Plumerias are going to come out kind of like that. And I'm just going to go ahead and draw kind of these pinwheels. Like that. So now I've created these pinwheels, and then I'll go back in and tuck those behind. So to me, that's kind of iconic, what I identify as a Plumeria. It may be different for you. The other thing I'll do is maybe just add in that little piece de resistance, like that. So again, I try and find and identify those kind of characteristic things of these flowers. Now this one will be a little bit different, so I'm going to go ahead and go in there. This one is on the bottom, so I'm going to make it a little bit fatter, like that. And this one coming out. This one I'll bring a little bit to the side, like that. Maybe even allow the side to show. And then adding in the little pinwheel effect. Maybe this one, you can see that side. And there you go. And then we have our last one, which is basically head on, the easiest way to draw these for sure. So just drawing those pinwheels, kind of going around, and now I'll connect them. Easy peasy. And then our little like that. Okay. I'm debating, wondering if I should, hopefully you can see those. Let's see. I have, let me see, my pens here. That's a micron pen. So I'm debating drawing these in so that you can see them. So those guidelines really help me keep my petals kind of in line. There we go. That little lip on the leaves, on the petals, I mean. Such an interesting little flower, isn't it? Last one. Now what I'll do too is erase the guidelines. There we go. So I'm going to erase the little guidelines that I originally drew, and I'm going to do that with a kneaded eraser. If I just roll over it, it's really going to lighten those up. Like that, till they're just about gone. I don't typically like to scrub my paper because I just feel like it sometimes can remove that beautiful texture that we have. And then let's just barely draw in some of these big fat Plumeria leaves. So I'm gonna do one right here, like that. Maybe one here. Kind of trying to look at how I have this zigzag composition. So maybe we can show the stem here and kind of coming out down here. And then a couple more leaves like that. Maybe one more here. There we go. So let's leave it at that. All right, let's start painting this. I'm going to start with my 8 round. Of course, you can use your 8 round. This is from my set. And I'm going to use pinks and yellows. I might just do a quick swatch here just to make sure of the colors I'm going to use. Grab a sheet here to do my color swatch on. So these are fun little swatch circles. You can draw them on, of course, as well. And I just want to make sure the colors, I pretty much have in mind what colors I want to use because I love my pinks and my yellows. The rose pink, you can use Quin Magenta as well. Look how beautiful that, to me, is exactly what I wanted for a lot of that bright pink in my flower. And then I'll use my cad yellow. Look how pretty those colors are. Those are always my favorite 2 colors together. And we'll get some light tree green. My Lang has just the most beautiful greens, I think. The Paul Rubens greens are always so pretty. So there's our green. Maybe we'll use a little bit of the sap green. I'll put that right there. So yummy. Even just doing this is so relaxing to me, coloring in swatches. And then I think for the brown, I'll use, you can use any of your browns. This is kind of a yellow sienna that I think is really pretty with those colors. We could also add in a little darker brown, maybe like a Van Dyke brown for some of the darker areas. I really, you know, I've been using the Paul Rubens for years, but the My Lang, their My Lang series, which is the student series, for a little over a year now, and really love it. So that's that grounding brown I love to put in with my florals. So there you go. That'll be rose pink, cad yellow, tree green, sap green. That's like their yellow sienna, and then a Van Dyke brown, a dark brown. All right, let's go ahead and start painting. So I'm going to put some of that beautiful rose pink into my palette here. I had a little bit of red in there. And again, we always want to start with that lightest value. So the pink lightest value, you want to have about 20% pigment, 80% water, and I'm going to go in and just start playing with these. So using the tip of my brush, like that, on each of those. Wash, rinse my brush, tap it off on a paper. I just want it damp. I don't want it real wet. And then I start wash rinsing and kind of spreading, softening that edge, but I keep wiping my brush and rinsing it off. Now, before this gets too, isn't that pretty already? Before this gets too dry, I want to go in and just tap in a little bit more of that pink right in the middle and just let it do its thing. Wash, rinse my brush, pick up a little bit more of that, tap, tap, tap to get that extra water. And using the side of my brush, rinse my brush, tap it off, go in, I keep wiping my brush, rinse it off, and almost kind of lifting some of that paint, but at the same time, I'm really just softening that edge. Now I'm going to go into that middle with a much darker value of that pink. So I actually took that right out of my palette. Then use a little bit of this, go in here, wash, rinse my brush, and go right up along that edge, just like that. Love that. And as you see, I'm leaving a lot of white in here. Now, I think while that's wet, what I'll do is grab just a little bit of my cad yellow. Be careful because that cad yellow can be really bright. And I'm going to go over just a little swash of it. That's my word, by the way. And I don't want to move it around too much. That's it. I'm just going to leave that right there. I can always soften that edge a bit and just leave it just like that. Let's go back into our next one. And maybe this one, we want to go from the end of the petal down like that instead of from the center out. So you can certainly do that. Wash, rinse my brush, tap it off on my paper towel. Wash, rinse, tap it off. Look how pretty. And then we can still go in and drop a little bit of that pink into the tip and just let it move on its own. Keep going here. Tip of the petal. I'm kind of painting upside down here. And then wash, rinse my brush, tap it off, and go right along the side of that. Just to gently blend it out. With a clean brush though, that's really important. And no puddles there. Now we can go into the tips of those. I'm gonna go right from my palette into those tips. Look how beautiful, oh my gosh. Just love that. And then you can just let the watercolor, look how pretty that is. I wanna get some of that yellow in there before it gets too dry. So I'm gonna pick up a little bit more of my yellow, cad yellow, but again, being kind of careful because that cad yellow can be very intense. So you want it a bit watered down. And just go into those. Oh my gosh, so pretty. These are quite colorful. And we're gonna go maybe into the center with the yellow instead of the pink. Or we can even add in a little bit of pink. Ooh, that's pretty. Now, if you don't want that, just pick it up. Let's finish off our last little leaf here. And I can still, by the way, go in and soften that edge if I want. Just with a clean, dry brush, just soften that edge. I'm not a real big hard edge person, so I tend to soften all of my edges. Like that. That one's okay. Okay, let's go into this last one here. Doing the tip. I'm going to use a tiny bit from my palette. Let it blend out. Wash, rinse my brush, tap it off. There we go. Blend that in. All right, there we go. Once we get that green in there, because green and red are kind of complementary, it's going to be really, really pretty. Let's see, let's do our last one here. Wash, rinse my brush. Blend out that edge. Tap in to the center with our bright pink. And we'll go on to the next one. Here too. Wash, rinse my brush. Go up against that hard line. Just pick it up a little bit. Soften it with a clean, barely damp brush. Go into the center with our bright pink. And we've got one more here. Wash, rinse my brush. Up alongside there. And there we go. A little bit more of that pink right in the center. Oh, so pretty. We can add some yellow to that as well. So I'll go in and pick up a little bit more of that yellow. Oh, so pretty. Okay, before we add some detail lines to that, let's go in and paint our leaves. So I'm going to use that sap green and lime green because I just love those colors together. And go in, same as I did here, dry on wet. Color in our leaf. And now I can go in and maybe around the edges add some of that olivey green. And just let it blend itself. Maybe a little darker around the bottom here. And I'm just using light pressure with the tip of my brush. And letting that just do its thing there. Might even add, let's try some of that bright green. I don't usually use that green, but let's play with that a bit and see what that looks like. That's kind of pretty. Looks very tropical, doesn't it? Now, before this dries too much, what I want to do is use my little stylus pen and just create, look how pretty that green is up against the red and pink. So pretty, isn't it? All right, let's do the same thing here. Or actually, I'm going to do this one over here so I don't put my hand in it. Just using a little bit of the side of my brush. And some of that dark green, just tapping in. This would even be pretty. I always love adding in some of the color of my flower in there. So this water is about 50 paint, 50 water. And still very movable. And then we'll go in with that little stylus. By the way, I got these in a whole pack. Where is my pack? And they were like, I don't know, $6. I'll look for my link I used and I'll put those down below. And you really don't even need all of these, but they'll be handy. And let's go to this one here. Actually, before I get too far, I want to show you because, like I said, I always like adding in some of the color of my flower to my leaves. I just think it's really pretty and it kind of brings everything together in a very coherent way. So look how pretty that is. It makes the flowers and the leaves feel like they're all together. Then we'll do this one. Like they're part of the same family, right? They're all connected. And some of that dark green in the bottom there. Get a little bit more of that. I actually really liked that kind of Kelly green or that bright green, which I normally don't really use. That was kind of pretty too. Just reminded me of a really tropical look. And our stylus. There we go. We've got one more leaf here. Let's paint that. There we go. So this is just damp. It's just shiny. I haven't got any petals here. And then I'll go in with my dark, dark green, my olive green. Tap in again down below. Let that kind of spread. If you really want something to spread as well, you can always add a tiny bit of water to the edge and it will kind of spread it out for you. And then maybe some of that real pretty tropical green. Our stylus. These are so pretty, aren't they? You can almost smell them, that frangipani. Okay, now I'm going to move to my browns and let's get that stem painted. Here we go. And I'm even going to go into that stem with some of that red, that pink. Oh, isn't that pretty with the pink in it? It just really blends it all together. As well, keep in mind when you blend together opposites, which here are contrasting colors or opposites on the color wheel. So I'm using kind of these pinky reds with greens. It creates a beautiful shadow color. So I like that as well. Now with the brown, not as much of a shadowy look, but that's okay. I should have added that in while that brown was still wet. Let's go for some of that dark, dark Van Dyke brown and tap that in there. Ooh, that adds a lot of interest. Yeah, there we go. All right. We could add in a little bit of green in here just to, so this flower doesn't look like it's just kind of floating out in space there. So let's create one more leaf here. Like that. And some of the dark green. It's in the background, so I won't do too much to that. I'm not even going to add in the lines. Oh, that's so pretty. Now let's go in and we're going to take that pink color that we had, that rose pink, and I want to create like a darker value. So maybe 80% pigment, 20% water. So the saturation, the value is darker. And I'm going to tap off my brush and use just the tip of my brush to create a few little details. Just in that crease there. Now this one, I didn't even do a crease. I don't want to do too much because I'm not a huge detail person, but I do, look how pretty that is. Ooh, that even got into there, which is totally fine. Do a little bit right here. And here. Just to add a touch of interest. And our last one. There we go. And oop, dropped my brush there. That's okay. All right, so I think I'm basically done. I hope you give these a try. They're awfully fun. And that drawing method kind of helped you out there. I'm just darkening this one side of the branch there. And I think that's about it. I'm pretty happy with that. All right. Happy painting, guys. That's the main thing, is just have fun, play, give this a try. I will do a tutorial kit for this if you like. And most of all, have fun. All right. Happy painting.